Oh, hello there, yes. Friday at last. I get a weekend. A little bit grey outside, but it hasn't rained. Pussycat is happy. He's fed and has gone out again, yes. Doesn't like the bin lorries, so it's probably best that he's outside. Anyway, today I thought I'd share a particular piece in the Telegraph from a few days ago, which has been to mix metaphors in my back pocket and rattling around my head for a while. And I think it neatly encapsulates the whole problem that there is in terms of the ideological battleground around sexuality and schools. Her headline is, "This warped experiment in schools is creating an entire generation afraid of sex." Sexuality is so delicate and easily damaged, especially when people are still developing. Why are schools gambling with it? Yes, indeed, why are teachers gambling with our children's future? It's dreadful, isn't it? Yes, I mean, we know that young people from studies seem to be having less sexual encounters, fewer sexual encounters, that's the one, isn't it, than other cohorts, generations their age. And obviously this also is a fault of the communists in schools. Just show you two paragraphs which I think neatly encapsulate what she's saying. But of course we now know that whatever the DFE says is purely academic, pun intended, out there in British classrooms. It's ideological teachers running the show. It's the Wild West. Yes, indeed. Now, if you have a particular view of teachers as being communists, then you can imagine under any circumstances that you fancy that the moment the door is shut, that the teacher will bring out their little red banner and start indoctrinating your children. The problem with that, of course, is that it's a world that neatly avoids any form of reality in terms of safeguarding law, in terms of what Ofsted can do to you if you're doing the wrong thing, or indeed just the notion that there are this enormously large number of young people out there who magically can be manipulated by an individual who has a particular task that the party presumably has set them. Which is a bit of a big take, unless of course you just use this kind of notional broad brushstroke whereby people like me have nefarious intent. And we probably don't, on any rational basis. It's rather like arguing that you would want cameras in the offices of a NatWest bank because you're not quite happy about what they might be doing when you can't see them behind the door. Why would you want that? Well, they might be doing something I don't want. Yes, they might, but they're probably not. And next, nobody at Thurston Primary School in Suffolk was going to consult with Michael Doherty before showing his 9-year-old daughter a BBC bite-sized video of a boy getting an erection and ejaculating. Yes, sounds awful, isn't it? Thrusting porn at the kids. But if we unpack that a little bit, yes, primary school, 9-year-old, Michael Doherty, look him up, Michael, he's another concerned Christian parent. And I've said this before, if you want Christians running things like sex education and science, you can have it. I don't mind. Teachers will happily teach whatever they're told to. So, I don't know. Let's think about evolution, because a lot of Christians out there don't really want evolution to be taught. After all, it's been presented for about the last 150 years as a bit of a communist plot by the ideological left. So let's not teach that in science lessons. Yeah? Why not, eh? Let's get some leeches and a wand instead. We can all pretend. We can pretend other things that patently aren't real. Or, conversely, Michael could maybe just suck it and see, or he could just decide to homeschool if he's that concerned. But if he is that concerned, which he may well be, that's probably the only thing he can do. But again, it presupposes an intent whereby people want to get hold of his 9-year-old daughter. 9-year-old? Yes, think back to your own childhood. Right? Think back to your own childhood. At what point, if you were a female, did you start menstruating? Maybe 9. Especially these days. A lot of younger females will start menstruating at 9. It's probably a good idea if they know about those things. Not being taught to do anything, other than maybe how to use sanitary products. But it's worthwhile knowing, because if you look at any of the literature out there about women coming of age, you discover that without that knowledge it can be a really scary thing. Again, Celia Walden, about protecting children, which teachers on the whole tend to want to do. And we can decide to live in a world whereby we pretend that people don't menstruate. I don't mind, we can do that again, but I'm not quite sure it's very healthy. Think back to being a 9-year-old male and ask yourself, when did I first get erections? It's a really good chance it's around about that time. So we have to say to ourselves, when might we teach children about these things? And Celia in her piece uses inverted commas around taught and teach, I notice, because she does understand the difference between the two things. Children are not taught to have sex. They'll probably have sex anyway. And speaking as somebody that works in education, I know quite a lot of 15-year-olds that are quite sexually active. At what point should they be taught about sex? 14. Ooh. 13. Oh. 12. Oh. Because we can go back to the early 90s and early 2000s, whereby an awful lot of 12-year-olds were becoming pregnant because of the poor quality of sexual information that was out there. And we had a government that didn't particularly want to give freely available contraception to people. Consequence, 12 and 14-year-olds carrying children might not be psychologically healthy, Celia, yeah? Now, the BBC Bite Size, you can have a look at that on a video. I'll leave a link below. You can use the word erection and ejaculating. It's fine if you want to. It is a BBC bite-sized video that has been cleared by all of their educational people for use in Key Stage 2, which is for your 9-year-olds. Now, again, we can not have this stuff if you want. But think to the ideological reasoning, not the lefty teachers, but the other people, the ideological reasoning behind not wanting to tell children basic things about their body. Very basic things about their body. I would argue that that's a really extreme position. And if you want to terrify children about sex, then one of the best things you can do is introduce a Christian-style abstinence curriculum like they have in a lot of the states. Absolute madness. But I would say that because, of course, I have an ideological goal to make children have reasonably happy lives. The depths of my depravity know no end. Anyway, have a lovely weekend.